we got Chepe Mariscal versus Pat Sabatini. Now, this is a very interesting one. I've gone back and forth on this one. I'm super torn. I think the odds being about pick'em is pretty damn accurate because it's going to go one of two ways. But we'll talk about that. First, Chepe Mariscal, recent fights versus Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson was having some success against the cage grappling early on. It was going back and forth. They were at some moments it was going back and forth though. At this point, you can see in the second round, Chepe Mariscal was able to have some success of his own in the grappling. It was going back and forth, pretty competitive. Third round comes around, Chepe Mariscal is throwing him around like it's nothing. I will say though, in that fight, Chepe did come in like 5 pounds overweight. So that is something to point out. Excuse me. That is something to notice, make note of, I guess. He did come in extremely overweight. So that is like a little dig to him there. But against Morgan Charrier, a lot of people were very mad about this fight. Everyone thought that Chepe lost this fight, even though he won. I believe it was a split decision. But yeah, people were very upset about this one. You can see second round, Morgan Charrier was having a lot of success in the grappling. He was looking really well. He was controlling Mariscal throughout this fight in the grappling. And Morgan Charrier is known as a kickboxer. He's not known as a grappler. So to see him really work Chepe Mariscal in the grappling, bit of a red flag. Definitely a bit of a concern for me. You can see in the third round, Morgan Charrier is looking like a Marab out there. I mean, the way he was dominated in the grappling, very, very impressive over a guy like Chepe Mariscal, who's pretty damn good. I rate Chepe pretty highly, but to see Morgan Charrier having this level of success in the grappling is a pretty big concern now that he's fighting a guy like Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini is a former Division I wrestler, very high-level BJJ black belt, and he's going to be a problem for Chepe Mariscal. Now, in his recent fights, Joe Anderson Brito, that's how this fight went. He had like 14 minutes of control time, absolutely dominated in the grappling. I thought Joe Anderson Brito was going to knock him out, so I was wrong on this pick for sure because he went out there and controlled him for damn near the entire fight. So Pat Sabatini dominated in this one. Next up, Diego Lopez. He does have chin problems, though. We could see Diego Lopez. This was the interesting part, though, too. It wasn't like Diego Lopez starts to knock his ass out from range. No, this was a scramble. This was a grappling exchange. They were going back and forth. All it takes is one shot, and they're going back up to the feet. They're trying to get back up. Diego Lopez hits him with an uppercut. Then Diego Lopez hits him with an overhand. Oh, I thought I had a picture of him out cold, but you can fill in the blank. Yeah, no, Diego Lopez put his ass out cold. It was over from there. But it just goes to show, it's not like he just has to land some bomb from range. I mean, Pat Sabatini's chin is pretty dust if you hit him anywhere at any moment. Now, Diego Lopez hits hard as shit, but it doesn't take a whole lot to put Pat Sabatini out. Now, this is the fight that really worries me and has always been like this thorn in the back of my mind, or I don't know. You get what I'm saying. It's always been a thought in the back of my mind, this fight about Pat Sabatini in a bad way. Now, against Damon Jackson. Damon Jackson basically knocks his ass out in the first round. He's landing some ground and pound shots. Pat Sabatini, I think on Tapology, I don't know, what do they say? Let me see what they say in terms of the UFC stats. I think they count it, it's a knockout, but if you go back and look in terms of how they classify it, what do they say? They call it a KO by punches. They say punches to head from back control. If you go back and watch this fight, Pat Sabatini verbally taps from strikes on the ground. Not a good look. As a grappler too, you thought maybe he verbally taps. He totally quits out there. He gave up. He said, no more. I don't want any more of this. And this was 1 minute into the fight. He quits 1 minute into the fight. So ever since then, I just can't really pick Pat Sabatini unless he's going against a guy he can just easily exploit in the grappling. I thought Joe Anderson Brito was going to be able to touch the chin eventually. Never ended up happening. But I've seen Pat Sabatini quit out there before. And I get it. I mean, like, save your brain, brother. I'm not saying take an ass kicking for no reason, but that's just not a common thing. Seeing guys verbally tap to strikes on the ground like this in the first minute of the fight, not a good look. That's always been something that's like bothered me about Pat Sabatini. It's prevented me from picking him. But in terms of the two of these guys, I'm leaning Chepe Mariscal ever so slightly, but I might pick flip to Pat Sabatini. I'm not going to lie. I won't be surprised if Pat Sabatini gets clipped at some point, gets knocked out. That will not surprise me at all. But on the other hand, we've seen Chepe Mariscal get out-grappled by a guy like Morgan Charrier. I think Pat Sabatini is a high enough level grappler to do the exact same thing. I think this line being about dead even makes a ton of sense. I know Pat Sabatini is actually, I know this is flipped. Pat Sabatini is now the favorite ever so slightly. I think he's like a minus 130, minus 140. Makes sense to me. I get why people might be on him because they've seen Morgan Charrier do the same thing. People are pissed off that he won that fight because they thought Chepe should have lost there. So I get why people might be on Pat Sabatini. It's just the chin problems that really concern me. The fact that he quit in a minute, verbally tapping. not a good look either. So I have my concerns with Pat Sabatini, although he's a very high-level grappler. So this is a close fight. I guess Chepe for now, but yeah, not too confident in either guy.